An Inside NBL special tonight. We're going to go through all the teams and have a look at where the players have been moving in free agency. Not necessarily Supercoach specific, just a new episode from Hammer and Mattrix.
Strap yourself in and get ready. The leaders in NBL Supercoach are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you dominate your mates and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NBL Show with your hosts, Mattrix and Hammer.
Mate, I was a bit rusty on the old intro. It has been a long off season. Good to have you on, mate. How have you been?
Mate, I have never been colder in my entire life. How horrendous has the last 2 days been?
It has been fresh. It's like feels like -3 up here in sunny Toowoomba. It is colder than the Toowoomba Mountaineers shooting streak.
And that is ice cold. But I'll tell you what is not ice cold. The NBL offseason, it's definitely heating up after a slow start. And we have got all the news, all the analysis, all the rumours. We like to deal in rumours. We've got all that coming tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in. We chatted a bit off air, and of course, right in the middle of NRL season, you're off season, and we just think that it's a little tidbit for our fans. Get out there, see what the teams are looking like, and we'll look at it from a basketball standpoint probably tonight. And then as we get closer to the season, we'll look at prices and everything for our Supercoach teams, because I suppose that's our specialty. But yeah, a little bit of a trial run tonight. Hey, just with NBL news, because we just live and breathe basketball, don't we, mate?
Yeah, for sure. And there's plenty to unpack. The Supercoach will come into it later once we get these depth charts finalised. No teams are really complete just yet, but a lot of speculation, a lot of rumours swirling around who may or may not be coming. So it's a really exciting time for us. We feel like we're getting that much closer to the start of the season, and I can't wait for this year.
No, I'm excited. I suppose going in alphabetical order, we'll chat about the Adelaide 36ers, and there's one, I was going to say big elephant in the room, big when it comes to contract, short when it comes to stature, and it's Bryce Cotton.
Yeah.
Seemingly, according to the press, dogging the Wildcats and going to Adelaide. What do you take from this?
Yeah, this one came a little left field, didn't it? We knew he'd left the Wildcats, and I think everyone just presumed he was going overseas. But look, you don't know if you don't ask, and the Adelaide 36ers made the call, and obviously the timing was right. And I don't know if you've listened to the podcast that Bryce has been on, but didn't sound like the Wildcats handled it all that well. But he's now an Adelaide 36er. He's got a bit of a supporting cast already around him. What do you make of this? Is this an upgrade from KD, who we were so high on last year?
And I'm still so high on KD, but I think it is an upgrade. Like, Bryce Cotton just knows how to win basketball. Like, at times, Kendrick, I'm not saying that he's a stat chaser or anything like that, but he does rack up the stats and score very well. But Bryce Cotton's conducive to winning. He's come from this Perth Wildcats team that just wins. The most winningest team in sports they had about a year ago. So if he can bring some of that culture to the 36ers, I like who they've kept or they've re-signed from years past. And the addition of, not the addition, and the re-signing of Montrezl Harrell as another import on this team.
Yeah, look, interesting about Montrezl Harrell, because I hate this signing. And it's weird, right? I did not expect this to happen. They came out very openly during the offseason and they said it didn't work between Isaac Humphries and Montrezl Harrell having essentially two non-shooting centers. We're targeting an elite floor spacing stretch four. And then next minute, Montrez is back in the fold, along with your marquee player, Big Ice Humphreys. What's your take here? Because we both talked extensively last year, didn't we? It didn't work. You couldn't play them together.
It wasn't great. It was good for the analysis we were looking at when it come to, a bit of stat padding and some missed shots and everything like that. But it wasn't that conducive to winning basketball. I hate to say I'd heard rumors. I don't think DJ and KD saw eye to eye a lot of times from, I suppose, some people close to the team. I'm not going to go out and say I've got these elite sources. I think it's pretty well known out there. So I mean, if you're spacing the floor with Bryce, DJ, hopefully getting some more shooters in that small forwards spot, getting somebody better than Jarrell Martin, who they had last year, in at the power forward, I think it can work. But I just think there's going to be so much like Montrez in, Isaac in, and then when you come to crunch time for a close game, what do you do? Do you shrink the floor? It's not on defense that I've got an issue with it. It's on offense.
Yeah, and look, you've probably heard the same rumors that they had offered Matt Hurt a contract, which is the type of player that I was expecting instead of Montrezl Harrell. And look, jumping over to Supercoach for a minute, I was very high on Humphreys prior to this Montrez signing. They'd openly come out and they'd said, "Look, he's going to be a focus for us. He's the big man." Saying all the right things to get him back on side, and would have been a great pairing to look inside to Big Ice and then have Matt Hurt stretching the floor, but to then still go after a Matt Hurt, and this is all speculation, but that tells me you're probably going to start Montrez at the 5 and Humphreys is coming off the bench. So, look, to me, that's starting to look like a guy I don't want to touch Supercoach-wise. Interestingly, though, you talk about that DJ thing. I've got my own sort of take on this. I think he's come across from Sydney and he's been promised the keys to the city. It was going to be his team. I don't think they ever realised KD was going to be as good as KD was. So he took a back seat there. Then KD's gone. He's thinking, all right, this is my time. I'm on a 3-year marquee deal. This is my team. And now Bryce, you think he's going to be just as put out this year?
No, I think he's a captain, and I think there was more to it. Talk to some guys that were in and around the team, but I do think that there was more to it than that. I think it was a bit of a clash of personalities, and not only who's the alpha, but DJ is the captain of this team. DJ is the guy speaking up in the locker room and the driver behind it. And, he's proved in some of these Olympic qualifiers that he is nearly said gold standard, but that sounds a bit, being from Australia, he's a bronze standard. But he is a guy that I think is of import level and a good captain of the team. I think Bryce is such a good teammate that they will coexist and score well.
All right. So, look, we got some really good pieces. A team of champions. It's yet to be seen if it's going to be a champion team. But the first signing the 36ers dropped, and this was a big domino to fall. It was probably the first big one in free agency, was Flynn Cameron coming across from Melbourne United. Now, this is a guy that I'd flagged earlier last year on our Twitter, saying that he had to break out of Melbourne United. He was the third string guard, stuck behind some good players. There was Delhi ahead, Goulding, Illy, Ian Clark. He just didn't have any room. And we all thought he was going to the Breakers. But look, they're projecting him to start at the 3 spot. Not a prolific shooter. He's not known for it. But look, a good defender. I'm seeing a lot of upside for Supercoach. He's coming in around 70,000. This is on my cash cow list. What's your take on Flynn?
Yeah, I think he's good as long as they don't sign that elite shooter. I think that he's going to be an upgrade from Lat Mayen in that spot, who's, of course, I call it a straight swap, Bryce Cotton for Lat Mayen. So I think Flynn's going to play that role probably a little bit better. I don't think he's the floor spacer that they probably need with Trez and Humphreys. But let's just see how the dominoes fall. If they do select another shooting power forward, I'm higher on Flynn Camerons. I think that he can sort of play a little bit of a point forward role with Bryce Cotton and DJ, out on the wing, spreading the floor out, and whether that gives Ice and Trez some more space inside with Flynn Cameron handling the ball. I think that we could see his assists go up. With this style of team, like Melbourne United had some guys that dominated the ball in their hands, and yeah, Bryce Cotton does to a degree, but at the end of the day, he is one of the elite shooters. If Flynn can, if Bryce is dragging everybody out and Flynn's dribbling the ball up the floor on occasion, I think that we could see LA 36ers make some real noise in this postseason.
And I think going on from what you've said there, Flynn is going to be the beneficiary of having some offensive firepower around him. Look, if you're playing defense, you're going to be having all your schemes looking at possibly doubling Bryce. You can't leave a shooter like DJ 3J. You can't help off of Montrez in the paint. So, if you're going to leave someone open in that starting five, it's probably going to be Flynn Cameron. And if he can knock down an open jumper, it's his for the taking. I do have concerns, though, that there is no point guard on this team. Bryce Cotton, to me, is not a point guard. He's a two-man. And then off the bench, you're looking probably Isaac White. So I'm not seeing a pure point guard on this roster. Does it work with the way Mike Wells just wants to bang up a lot of threes and run and gun?
Yeah, it probably does, but I think that we will see the ball in Flynn Cameron's hands. And I think that he'll play that point forward role. And to be honest, I look at this team and I know Jason Kidd retired, but I think that the way that he played probably would have really fit with this team, which is disappointing. I feel like in the last couple of years he went out on a bit of a low, but anyway, there's not much. Father time comes for us all, right?
Yeah. So this will be an interesting watch. We'll see what they do with that last import spot. But look, the last point on Supercoach, Bryce, I've got big reservations on just coming in at 512,000 is what I'm predicting he comes in at. There's not a lot of upside in terms of price, So keep an eye on that. He's a bit of a premium to pay up for, and we'll talk more on that as the season gets closer. But mate, you're Brisbane Bullets. Talk to me about these guys. This is weird.
I don't want to.
Yeah, you skip it?
Oh, look! It looks like James Bateman's going to be back in the fold.
I'm hearing he's not.
Yeah, I mean he's contracted, so he'd have to break the contract.
So they've given him a mutual release.
Okay, yeah, right. So
that what I'm hearing is that they went hard after Delhi, and they thought Bateman was the guy to pair next to next to a point guard like Delhi. Obviously, didn't eventuate. They probably need more of a one. They've left on good terms, but Bateman's been doing good stuff overseas. It looks like he might continue his ways over there. So I would be very apprehensive to bank on him coming back. What we do know, though, is Casey Prather is the one import that's signed, and I'm going to say there's two more spots to come.
Yeah, we have to. At this stage, you can't say too much. I think the contracted guys are Mitch Norton, Towie Smith-Milner, which I'm not too excited about it.
I am.
I'm probably like, okay, you reckon he can get some burn?
Man, well, look at the big man department. You've lost Josh Bannon. This team was, it was his team essentially before Prather decided to turn back the clock. They are thin up front. You've got Tyrell, who I'm really high on. But then after Tyrell, and he's been injury prone, backup big is going to be Towie Smith-Milner. He can shoot the piss out of it. So he can play alongside Tyrell. They don't really have a four unless you're playing Casey at the four all the time, but you'd like to see him drop to the three at times. Look, Towie Smith-Milner's coming in a little bit expensive into the game because he had such a great end to the year last year, and they've snapped him up to sign him again. I'm high. I think he can be a very solid contributor on this team.
I'm probably a bit more high on Sam McDaniel. Of course, we've got to see how he bounces back from that injury. I hate to say I've seen him training on Instagram and he looks fit. But yeah,
he has been playing NBL 1 the last half dozen games, and I think he's on about a 20-point average. 5 and 5 for his last 5 games. I think he's finding some form, and obviously with an injury like that, it's going to take some time to get the feel and the touch back, but get that confidence back as well. So look, I'm watching his off-season closely, and so far so good. But look, we know he's good for the team. his defense is what they missed last year. They didn't have that point of attack defender. But his offensive package is limited, right?
Yep. Yeah. They need some scorers around, and looking at your Bible that you've done up, that I've been using for notes in the background. Look, you do have a lot of empty spots here. We've got some imports. If they decide to go local guys, at least they'll get a good draft pick.
Yeah. Talking about Tyrell, we were as high as a kite on this guy last year. We pretty much told everyone he was a lock for captain in round 1, and then he laid an egg. Now, he went up in price over the season, so he wasn't horrendous, but after winning the Blitz MVP, we expected more, didn't we? But you've seen his offseason in Puerto Rico, where he's teamed up with Milton Doyle and Sam Wardenberg. He's been elite. He's rumored to have been given a summer league type gig coming up. I'm feeling like, deja vu. I'm high on this guy again. You feeling him?
I am. I'm always high on him, and I think like just the big centers aren't dead in Australia. So look, whereas I feel like maybe you could get a late roster spot in an NBA team, I do kind of just think that if it looks like he's just going to be playing in Australia, he'll do much of the same as he did last year, and that's conducive to good basketball. But it's hard to get high on this team until you see how the rest of the pieces fall. And maybe an excellent segue into Cairns Taipans, which probably one of their biggest pieces was the coach. With Adam Ford coming back, at least I feel like they have a direction. Despite there probably not being that much movement, but it's super hard to, get people to come and play for your team when you don't even have a fucking coach.
Yeah, it's been really hard, and it's been a long time coming. It's very hard to sign players when they don't know who they're coming to play for. But I think Ford gives them stability. But also, the rumors are in overdrive that there is a new ownership who is going to buy the team, which would inject some much needed funds and take them away from that community owned model where, like, let's be honest, they have struggled to even make the salary floor each year. And the quality of imports, the inability to retain players has really hamstrung them. I would love to see what 40 can do given the budget. Because, look, I'm high on the guy. He's overachieved with what he's been given.
Yeah, and I was probably more high, let's say, 12 hours ago, before Patty Mills was named general manager of the University of Hawaii basketball. Now,
is that legit or is that a token thing?
That's my question mark, because I legit just think he could bring so much to this team, whether it be
player or owner.
Both. Like, I was of the impression that, and maybe I just made this up in my head, but I was always of the impression that it was quite similar to the Andrew Bogut end of career, coming in. Like, I don't expect any, like, Patty Mills is not at that point in his career where I expect him to, do a playoff run like Bogut did late in his career, to go back overseas after the season was finished or anything like that. I just thought that it would sell a lot of jerseys if you were the owner and Patty Mills come out and played in his 88 in a Cairns Taipans jersey. Heck, I think I would even buy a jersey, and that's before Todd Blanchfield jersey. So,
yeah, man, I'm going to be controversial here and say 100% agree with you from a marketing, from a that kind of perspective, but I don't think it's going to be a positive putting him on the floor. I think it actually takes away from any team dynamic you have, and maybe in a Cairns where you got no one else, but man, he's lost a step. He's inefficient. He's look, I'm not high on the guy. But I'll tell you who I am high on out of Cairns is Alex Higgins T-shirt. Now, Supercoach hat on, there's a cash cow waiting to happen. And the re-signing of Ford makes me even higher because we know that what 40 thinks of him and that sort of trajectory he was on last year. But Man, this guy is set for a season, right?
Because he was just on like a not a training trial, like a development contract,
Yeah, the
and
DP.
just played himself into a real contract. I wouldn't be surprised if he does play a bit of summer league. I don't expect that to sort of go anywhere,
Yeah.
but I think at his age that would be great for his career. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a starting spot from him. I think some of Cairns' best basketball come when Alex Higgins Tisha was on the field, on the court. Sorry, I've
Mm.
been watching too much NRL court
Yeah.
basketball court, but I really like him and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team. Probably like there's 4 guys contracted, so there's not a lot to touch here. And it's Sam Wardenberg, Kyle Adnam. I don't think I need to talk about Kyle
Yeah.
Adnam.
I think the
But
one we can talk about, though, is Sam Wardenberg and what he's been doing in Puerto Rico in the off-season. I
yeah,
touched on before that him, Milton Doyle, and Terrell Harrison have teamed up, but man, Sam is putting up some numbers. And we had that sophomore slump a couple of years ago. This previous year, he's just taken another step. I think he's ready to go to another level. And I think as long as he doesn't get recruited over up in Cairns, I think he's going to come in about 325,000 this year. I'm putting him in that premium category where you would have a punt on him and say, you know what, if he's the man in Cairns, which it's shaping up to be, this guy could be a starter given the schedule.
yeah. And I just need to see what else they sign. Like it's so hard when you look at a team and I suppose this is the point in the year where there's lots of speculation and everything like that. But I mean, currently their starting lineup would be Kyle Adnam, Cody Statman, Alex Higgins, Tisha, Kyron Galloway, and Sam Wardenberg. So we
Which
have
you
to
would say
see.
would be competitive in the QSL.
I wouldn't go that far. But I was really high on Kyron Galloway last year. I maybe fell for it a little bit. Maybe I just watched his brother play too much or something. I liked what I saw in
He
Adelaide.
had every reason to fall for it because he was showing that in Adelaide. He was promised an expanded role in Cairns, and it never happened. And my only concern here is that, look, he's back, but are him and Alex Higgins T-shirt too similar? Is it one or the other, or are we going to get that? We don't know who's going to play on each night.
In a lot of ways, he's like a smaller Sam Wardenberg too. Like I don't,
Mm.
I he's such a hybrid that the pieces really need to fall. And yeah, somebody falls down on the floor and you look to your bench and Kyron can fit a lot of spots.
Mm.
But
And he's
I
a high
don't
points per minute guy too. Like if
yeah.
you're thinking from a Supercoach perspective, he didn't get the consistent burn last year, but there were times where he'd come in for a couple of minutes, and he's played 4 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. He's put 20 Supercoach points up, so he can do it.
Yeah, look, I've got to see where the other pieces fall, but with 4 players contracted,
Mm.
there probably can't be too much speculation with I
Yeah,
mean, I keep overlooking Cody Statman, so yeah, shout out to him.
yeah,
Um look, Illawarra Hawks, the reigning
yeah.
the reigning champions. I was super pumped just to watch them win. I know that we were messaging while the game was on,
Yeah.
and look, in a lot of ways, we were just excited to see a smaller market team win.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say the slander we had about Melbourne United, but we hate
Yeah.
them. But look, Illawarra Hawks, Justin Tatum, such a good story because I love the guys that they have in this team.
Mm.
I love their roles. I love them from the Supercoach standpoint that I was watching. I love that they had some guys that could play multiple positions, and at sometimes they played positionless basketball.
Yeah.
I think that this team will be extremely good this year, and I would not be surprised to see them right up there at the top. I know that there's all this talk around, Adelaide and Sydney, but I think
Mm.
consistency, there's a lot that can be said for consistency, is probably the words I'm trying to say.
Yeah. 100%. I love the fact too that they built a team rather than buying a team, and they've managed to retain the majority of that core. Now, Sam Froling did his Achilles in the the finals series. I'm hearing he's probably out for most of next season. Aldrich had a breakout final series in his absence and has absolutely taken it and run with it through the NBA combine process. You want to fill us in a little bit on that?
Yeah, last time I looked, he was projected probably early second round, which I think is well deserved when, there's been so much talk about Rocco in this upcoming season. It's, I suppose, in a lot of ways, good for us as NBL analysts to see the fact that how they're playing and not just their general profile can affect the draft positively. Like I saw a lot of pre-drafts and super early, like Sam Vicini, great podcast if you want to ever have a listen to Sam Vicini's podcasts. Like projected in the 90s or projected not available at the start of last year, and then played himself into such a great role with that hybrid power forward center role. When Sam Froling goes down, Lockie Ulbrich stands up. They play like the yin and the yang with Mason Peatling and Lockie Ulbrich.
Yeah.
He played so many good roles, and to see him skyrocket up the NBA draft board honestly just makes me super proud. And I saw a lot of his scores in some of those, like they have like games where they all play against each other and analysts watch it, and they try and select their draft picks, and he was throwing up some really good numbers. Like I'm talking 15 and 8s and against like the elite talent. And yeah, some of those like Rocco wasn't even invited to, which if you have a look at how they played last year, checks out.
Yeah, he's been really good. My concern for NBL 26 is his future's unclear. We thought he was throwing his hat in the draft and, whatever, you're getting too old now, just may as well have a crack. But there's all the possibility in the world he gets a two-way or some sort of contract. And we just got to hope that he's stashed back with the Illawarra Hawks. But if they don't have him, it's going to be a big hole up front with no Aldrich, no Sam Froling. The other departure out of the Illawarra Hawks, which is probably flown under the radar a bit, is Haijung Lee. Now, he was the special restricted player, so had some weird, funky salary cap implications, but he was good. And he was meant to come back, but he's going to go and pursue opportunities elsewhere. But like we always say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And this is opening up a lot of minutes for a guy who we thought was, 1 foot into retirement. But after another stellar end of the season, your boy Toddy Blanchfield signed a 3-year contract, which will take him through to age 412 at the end of this one. What's your take there? Is he one to keep an eye on?
Is he the greatest of all time, or is he just Todd Blanchfield? I mean, he has improved himself as a tremendously versatile player over the years. But could he be the best player to win all the Asia Cups and everything like that? Like when all the NBA players are out and everything like that, he just comes and gets it done against New Zealand, against the Philippines, against all these teams to go and make the Olympics. And I mean,
What you're saying
they should
is
build.
he's the Stephen Bradbury. Everyone else falls over, isn't available, and he just coasts through and gets the medal.
They should build a statue somewhere. I'm just not sure where it should be. Look, I love him. He's gonna play a lot of minutes. Look, my thing is he's gonna be 34 years old next year, and he's just gonna be a great locker room guy. I think by the time that second and third year comes around, it will be more of a player coach role. But yeah, you need to see where they fall. Like they've got Tyler Harvey contracted. I know that you've got a 10-minute segment to talk about Will Hickey, so maybe we should just go there.
Yeah, man. Will was elite. Now, I'm hearing all kinds of things now that obviously Darius Days won't come back. Matt Hurt seems to be linked very closely to Illawarra as an import, which would mean perhaps we've seen the end of Trey Kell.
Yep.
Maybe that's not such a bad thing when you've got Will Hickey, who is probably Trey Kell light, or at least going that way, is that bigger. I wouldn't call him a point guard, but I'd call him more maybe an off guard. Like
Yep.
he's not a pure point guard. He's not even a. He's just a baller, right? He's unconventional. He's unorthodox. He's funky, but he gets it done. Now this is a guy, and you're obviously the NBA expert. He's had a summer league call up. This has come out of nowhere.
I honestly think he's the kind of guy that can play on an NBA roster. And look, like when I talk about Lockie Ulbrich, I'm talking the 12th spot and playing a fair bit of G League. I think that this guy has that dog in him to, be the third guy on the depth chart, and you look across at your bench when you're down, and he comes in there and pumps the team up, and they lift. And then the next game you look across, and then instead of playing 5 minutes when you're down 30, you throw him in at the end of the second quarter, and then he's earning seven minutes, and then he works his way up into valuable backup minutes. He is that good.
All right. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine this. Is Will Hickey the outback Jeremy Lin?
No, he's not.
We're not going to see some kind of fairy tale Cinderella thing where he just makes the roster, sits around, gets his opportunity, and then all of a sudden Linsanity.
I think that he can be a consistent contributor.
Okay.
Whereas Linsanity, rose to the top, had, that random 38-point game against Kobe, and everybody was watching that because it was primetime ESPN. I think this guy could be a genuine backup at Utah, or a genuine backup for one of those teams, or when Denver inevitably pay Jamal Murray and Joker and all these guys, and they need to find a value pick somewhere. It's somebody that can soak up some minutes in the NBA and not miss a beat from some of these guys that are on $15-16 million a year, which to me is better than Linsanity.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the rest of their roster spots. Tyler Harvey obviously has an eye on being naturalized. If that happens, that'll be unbelievable. We'll be able to marquee that money and go big on the next contracts for other guys. But obviously, Bryce Cotton's had some trouble with getting naturalized, so I wouldn't hold my breath. Next up, my all-time least favorite team ever, Melbourne United. They've gone out and made a little bit of a splash. They've been sneaky quiet. They've gone under the radar, but they've poached Milton Doyle from Tassie. They have gone and got Flynn Cameron. They're doing all right.
I think Milton Doyle will be a really good fit. I'm probably a bit excited to watch Dash Daniels play, because I just get a little woody over watching next stars that you can see progress to the NBA. I think the LaMelo Ball experiment was one of the best things I've seen with the NBL, and has helped NBL get to where it is today. And with Dyson winning Defensive Player of the Year, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Dash, which from what I've seen is a Dyson Light, which actually sounds like a $400 vacuum cleaner, but he is a basketball player.
To be fair, having watched his NBL 1 stuff so far, and I guess he hasn't played in a while, he's warming up, I'd be more inclined to buy the $400 vacuum cleaner than take Dash just yet in Supercoach. I need to see a bit more. But look, let's touch on Milton Doyle. I know it's going to have a bit of crossover with our little Tassie segment, but as a diehard Jack Jumpers fan, initially it annoyed me, but I'm actually not that upset. I think this is something that works for both teams. Look, Milton with Tassie had declined statistically year on year his 3 years in the league. That last year, and maybe through no fault of his own, through injuries, the system, whatever it was, he was inefficient. Yes, he popped up and had some big shots and some game winners and stuff, but I think it's best for them to move on for a different type of player. But Melbourne United, this guy is good. He's going to fit the system. I've always felt like Milton should be more Robin than Batman, and pairing him next to CG43, next to a probably a lesser known offensive threat in Shea and a defensive stopper, and then possibly getting some more offensive punch off the bench, maybe an Ian Clark type or something. He's going to flourish in this system, and I think this is probably the best thing that could happen for both teams. I think Milton in Melbourne United's system, and with that supporting cast around him, will have a real bounce back year. Just as long as they can shore up that 5 spot, and they've said they're going after the import route to the centre, and that it's going to be a scoring, rebounding machine. A bit of a deviation from the Marcus Lee type route they've had previously.
I'm excited to see Marcus Lee in a team that doesn't play at a snail's. Milton Doyle in a team that doesn't play at a snail's pace. Just more possessions. Like some possessions did seem wasted for Tassie because of how slow that they played. I'm not excited for Dean Vickerman's rotations. I never have. But look, Milton Doyle, your Illies, you've got like great defense. You've got some shooting around. You've apparently got a rebounding machine. Hey, I would not be surprised to see Melbourne top 4 despite losing arguably their best player, arguably one of Australia's best players of all time, which is a move in the right direction. Milton Doyle's younger, probably does Delhi-like things at this stage. I'm probably a bit more concerned with losing your Ian Clarks and your Jack Whites, or not having re-signed them yet. Like what's Jack White gonna do? Is he gonna go the the route of just playing overseas and trying to make that bank, or does he actually like being at home? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think Milton Doyle was the big one. I like that they've kept your Gouldings, your Illies, and they've always been relatively deep, haven't they, mate?
Am I alone though in thinking that Finn Delaney is a major downgrade?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, look. I think people are looking through it with some rose-colored glasses. He had that year in New Zealand before he really broke out and went overseas. I think he's all NBL second team, put up some big numbers, went overseas, and he came back and he just wasn't really it. And the league had moved on. He was an NBL all second team in a league that's probably C grade compared to what it is now. I don't think, and he hasn't been doing that great a job overseas. I think he's going to be more of a role player. They really need to nail this centre import and let him be a role player, because if they're going to be dependent on him, we saw what happened with Jack White, and Jack White was a more complete player than Finn Delaney is, and Jack White went missing at times. He couldn't get it done. I'm not high on the Finn Delaney one. I think this could possibly, and I'm going to wait to see a bit more of preseason, could be going down the fool's gold line.
I don't want to sound like a negative prick, but Kyle Bowen at this stage of his career is probably better than Finn Delaney. And that's throwing no shade. That's respecting Kyle Bowen's game, and not seeing Finn Delaney compete at a high level for a little bit. I think I really liked what he did last year. And mate, if Kyle Bowen can own that role and Finn Delaney plays that bench role, depending on the center, I think this team will be fine regardless. And of course, Finn adds some depth, but I don't think it's the marquee signing that Melbourne United diehards think they're getting. And I fell into some traps of thinking that Josh Bannon was the second coming of Jesus and all sorts of things, being a Brisbane Bullets supporter. We've been through some tough years, but Finn Delaney ain't it.
No. And look, I 100% will say that he starts, but I reckon it might be a job share situation between him and Kyle Bowen, probably paying 20 minutes each. And look, Olgan put it pretty well on the marketplace earlier this year, talking about Kyle Bowen. He said Bowen's floor is a 6 out of 10 and his ceiling is a 7 out of 10. He's just a meat and potatoes guy. He's what you see is what you get. I don't think he's getting any better. I think what we've seen is what we're going to continue to see. But he's dependable.
But when you've got Goulding that can be a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, despite,
Yeah, rocks and
having
diamonds.
a bigger receding hairline than you, and
Yeah, that's
then
gonna
you've
be sad,
got,
isn't it?
yeah, and then Milton Doyle also, being a little bit rocks and diamonds, and then Illy's offense being rocks and diamonds. I'm seeing Bowen as that consistency in this team,
Yeah,
that they need.
yeah, for sure.
Mate, New Zealand, the Bruce over there,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
a few little moves. Um, I suppose the biggest thing is Kareem the Dream.
Oh, yeah.
Being back this year. He's unreal. He is a man that will play. A man, a boy, a kid, whatever he is. He's got incredible hair.
Yeah.
But he could just be a guy that does make it in the NBA. From what I've seen, a boy playing in a man's league,
Mm,
and being an absolute gun. Sam Menenga, much like a Wardenberg light, and I know that they've played on the same team as well at times. And then you see your Sean Bairstow. He'll be consistent for them. You got Carlin Davison had his moments on this team. I think they've got Ruben Tarangi coming back, Isaiah Liafa
hmm
coming back again,
Yeah.
and New Zealand's finest Rob Lowe back in there from the dead. It's it's shaping out okay, but they do really need to hit in my opinion, a point guard,
Yeah.
and
All
yeah,
three
and I
import
suppose
spots.
they've got. Yeah, well, they've got Taco Fall contracted, correct? I don't know if it's a team
Look, he's
option or.
contracted. Everything I'm hearing is that he's gonna be released. Um,
Okay.
I'm hearing Parker Jackson Cartwright might be open to a return, nothing official. But right now, all three import spots are open. Man, Kareem the Dream, that's where I'm looking. Uh, he's been phenomenal. If you look back at next stars too that have come back for a second year, we're talking Ariel Hakporti, uh, Didi Lazada. There's been a couple of other ones, and they've all improved year on year. So I'm expecting more from him. This guy was better than advertised. Another year at that age to put a bit more size on your frame. You saw him in the international stuff over the summer.
It's great.
He's been phenomenal. His stroke's looking good. I'm really high that they brought back Coach Petri Koppinen, um, just because we know how he feels about Kareem Lopez. Kareem will be the starting three. You can bank on that. The price is good from a Supercoach perspective. A couple of other ones to keep an eye on. Carlin Davidson has come into a full roster spot. Look, may get some burn, but he's so cheap. Keep an eye on it. Sean
It's
Bairstow showed some promise in some moments last year. Uh, but yeah, I'm really keen to see what they do with the three imports because you know a lot of the time, and look, it might be different under new ownership now, but over the last few years, New Zealand have nailed most of their import spots, with the exception of probably last year.
Yeah, I mean they always had Parker Jackson Cartwright, which on his day can be the best
Yeah.
point guard
But
in the league.
go back a bit further. Derek Pardon, Jarrell Brantley, Bobby Brown Jr. Uh, look, there's been there's another one, another big guy. But yeah, they've been good. So I'm really excited to see what they can do with those spots because the locals they're probably lukewarm at the moment. Whelming.
Yeah, I've seen Ruben Tarangi turn into the New Zealand LeBron on the international scene. Do you think the New Zealand Pink can he can perform as well as the New Zealand Black?
Oh, probably no. And just looking from a depth chart perspective, I am so high on Kareem Lopez taking that three, swinging to the four, which is probably what Ruben Tarangi is. Uh, you bring in an import. I'm hearing they'll get a 4-5. I just don't see Ruben really at this stage of his career being that. Um, but look, there's plenty to play out. This roster could take all kinds of twists and turns depending on where these imports end up. But Yeah, they went for a New Zealand flavour, I think, which was probably at the detriment of talent. Like Liafa had a real down year in Sydney. He could be okay for them. But then, you've got some of the younger guys. You've got your Sean Bairstows, other guys looking for minutes. So there's going to be a log jam for some of those backup spots.
Would you play Sean Bairstow before Liafa? Like you're rounding this team, you're picking a starter.
Um,
Who would you pick?
See, I think Bairstow's probably more of a 2-3. Liafa's probably a 2-1. If you've got a Parker Jackson Cartwright, you're probably playing him 35 minutes. Um, and so that's where I see there's not a lot of time left for some of these guys, and they're going to be fighting over the crumbs. Uh,
Yep.
so I think it's more they're going to be the victims of being so reliant on good imports that there's no minutes left.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. We don't expect Taco Fall to get, to finish out there.
Yeah.
Let's have a chat to John Reilly's Perth.
Oh,
Um,
have you seen how putrid their rebrand is that came out tonight? I felt physically sick.
I mean, they, in my opinion, had one of the best logos. They were the Wildcats, and maybe they had the best logo because they were winning. And this is the losing logo because
I feel like this is like every girl who's gone through a breakup and goes and gets a completely new hair color, or cuts their hair short, or goes and gets
a
some
Bob.
piercing, or whatever it is. So like this is them breaking up with Bryce Cotton, and this is their little meltdown because of it. It's putrid. It looks like 1997 Microsoft Word, where you used word art on your like grade 3 project and thought, oh, I'm cool because I've typed in Comic Sans or something. This is, you'd think with the amount of money that they have saved, not paying Bryce's contract, they could have got someone with half an idea to tell them this is ridiculous.
Look, I think you could duck into ChatGPT right now and get a better Wildcats logo. I think Zac Efron's high school basketball team has a better logo, but I'm going to leave that there.
I think
We
his
have
high school basketball team could beat this current Wildcats team. They are looking a little shaky.
They are. I do like Dylan Windler. I'm very disappointed that this Christian Doolittle injury looks pretty bad. So he's hurt himself while overseas.
Mm.
And yeah, like who are they going to do? Like, what's your big signings? Lat Mayan, Sunday Deck. Like they're role guys. I
Mm.
think if Benny Henschel doesn't get picked, because he's went out and declared for the draft. I expect Almanza to be right up there and picked in the draft. If Benny Henschel doesn't get picked, he could weirdly be the man on this team.
Look, a little bit of news on Benny Henschel. He's still toying with the idea of playing college ball with Florida.
Okay.
Come out today that he's possibly ineligible. A, because of the size of his contracts he's been paid in Perth, but B, because he's academically ineligible. Sounds like his GPA is way too low. So there's a possibility he's back. But leave him to the side for a minute. I'm going to tell you who I am so high on right now, and that is
Tell me.
Elijah Pepper. Now, in the absence of Bryce Cotton, this guy has been the apprentice in waiting for all of last season, possibly the season before, and his time has come. Have you seen what he's been doing in the NBL 1?
He had a couple of 50 pieces in a row at one stage. I
He
did
had
watch his highlights.
3 out of 4 games. I think the game he missed, he had 49 or something. The guy's been on a tear. And when scoring's at a premium, especially from the guard spot, look, I think he could be the man. They're going to have to go after an import point guard, I'd say, or at least like a scoring point guard, maybe your KD type. They've got Sunday Deck. They've got Dylan Windler, who I think will play a much bigger role this year. I'm not hearing the Doolittle injuries as bad as you're making out. But then they've got a massive hole up the front where they're looking to fill it with an Australian if they can. Obviously, Keanu Pinder's gone. I'm hearing names like what was the guy? He played for New Zealand the other year. He was good. Yanni Wetzel.
Mhm.
So look, he'd be a great fit. But this team losing Pinder as a marquee Australian, that's what's throwing the balance off. So unless you can nail a next star who's going to play some big minutes, they are very thin up front. Aquera is about the only sort of bit of size they've got left there. And I think they're in a world of hurt. And we know John really, he's going to have to actually work out how to coach this year other than, he'll have to learn how to sub. He was playing Bryce 40 minutes and then trying to work out the rest around it. He's going to actually have to come up with a scheme this time.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him. I suppose to a certain degree, I'm excited to see what he can make of this, but I think this could be, and I'm getting chills from Daly Cherry Evans standing up there and saying that was the worst Queensland team ever and winning. That this could be the worst Perth team I've seen. As long as I've been alive, basically. Like Perth has been always, as long as I can remember, unreal. So, and I'm just not excited about them Bryceless. I've seen so much from Bryce over the years and so much carrying of this team. So, and outside of Kendrick Davis, Parker Jackson Cartwright, I'm not sure there's a man out there that can do it for him. Like, what do they sign Isaiah Thomas? At 35? I don't know. I think this is a changing of the guard, and I don't think that they will be very good this year. And
no,
that's sad.
They've signed Doolittle for 3 years, so they're going to have to figure it out quick. Because, man, without Bryce, you've lost your identity. He's ripped the heart out of the Red Army. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the first game Adelaide comes back to play at the Jungle. But yeah, this is a lot to play out in Perth, and they're going to have to get creative to actually put a balanced roster on the floor.
Did they sign Cameron Huffner?
Yeah.
He played a lot of minutes in college, and is an Australian local. So we'll see how that pans out. Quite often, I think he's a good shooter that could be a little bit of a Doolittle light, or can fit a spot. I think he's
stuff.
Yeah, or a young Wagstaff. When you need somebody, you've got this token white guy, and he just trudges out and does his thing. I think that he can help on the boards and score well.
Does Lat
probably
Main
a 40% shooter. Lat Main can soak up a lot of minutes, but I'm not sure. You play him against their best defender. But why do you need that when you've already got Dylan Windler there? Who I found to be a pretty good defender there, but so much better on offense. I'm not sure I like the fit with Sunday Deck and Lat Mayen, because it sounds like a whole lot of non-shooting. I mean, unless they just let Pepper cook. Unless Pepper's shooting 25 times, 20 times a night.
Yeah.
Which I don't think in the NBL that's that conducive to winning basketball.
Is Pepper what DJ 3J was a couple of years ago in Sydney? Is that what we're expecting?
I mean, there's a chance out there. I was high on him when he did get signed, and then I just didn't see the minutes there but
behind Bryce.
There's a pathway. Yeah, because everyone was behind Bryce. Mate, I think we need to talk about the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. They retained Josh King, who I thought was great last year coming in. And they've got Hunter, they've got Sobey, they've got Glover. They signed DJ Mitchell.
Yeah.
And, they've got Foxwell there. It could be. They signed Elijah Moore, the import. How do you see this team shaping out?
Yeah, look, that Amari Moore one, there's reports that Bayern Munich are offering some big money. That isn't official yet, so may not occur. But I really like the look of him. He's a 6'6" point guard. I reckon he'll do some really good things. We think of these bigger point guards that I'm talking like Josh Giddey. I'm talking LaMelo. Those guys who just ping that pass off with that one hand and awesome court vision. This guy can stroke it from deep. So I
Karen,
think
yeah.
I think that will be a really good fit for that team. Uh, so look, I would be really excited to see what he can do. I'd be pretty high super coach wise as well. Josh King, you're right. Great re-signing. Came in mid-year and I think could have even been, coach of the year. He's probably unlucky to take that team from, what was it, like a 0-10 start or something under Mike Kelly and finish, I think, third. Look, Jordan Hunter, he got released very early playing overseas. He had a
Okay.
disappointing year last year. I expect more from him. Supercoach wise, I've got a real close eye on him because he's coming in really cheap. Always been concerned about anyone playing next to Sobey, just because the way he plays. But look, Foxwell's one for me. Look, the kid's due to hit puberty. So, man, the guy, he looks like a fetus, but he is getting it done. And he had a real good end of the year after Derek Walton Jr. went down. He's going to get minutes. And I think Josh King has built this team with the understanding that he's going to, at least play sort of sixth man type minutes. I really like the way this team's shaping up if they can nail the 3 import spots.
Yeah, and there's so many question marks on those import spots. I feel like they missed the mark last year with Derek Walton Jr. and Joey
Wiseman.
Wieskamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on this import spot, which is why Moore is so exciting. Should he, I suppose, finalize that contract?
And this is Josh King's first chance to recruit guys for his system. We've got to remember he inherited everything last year.
I think under Josh King, Sobey played near on his best basketball. He passed the ball well. I think he fit in well with a lot of the other guys. He never had the primary defender when they played a Ben Air or a Walton and everyone like that. And I think he led from the front. He's going to have his mate DJ Mitchell, which obviously linked up with in Brisbane, and that tenure was ruined by a long list of injuries. To be completely honest, I'm not that high on him. I think that he's a backup at best.
I did a bit of digging into it. His time in Brisbane, but I think we're just looking at it through some rose-colored glasses. He had a couple of really big games, but his averages were gross. He's playing in a very weak league. I think it might even be the UK BBL or something, and he's not doing much at all. He didn't do all that much in the NBL 1 when he was here. I think he seems better than he is because he has a couple of flashy plays every now and then. He had all kinds of problems with the coach, that JD, whatever his name was, that got sacked up in Brisbane, James Duncan. Yeah, I'm not high on him at all. In fact, I'm putting him firmly in the fool's gold category, and I invite you to pick him in your Supercoach team this year, Matthew.
I don't know. Great bloke. I had one too many vodka slushies and had a bit of a chat to him at the NBL Blitz last year. So yeah, shout out to DJ. He was up for a chat. I don't remember much of it. And look, I think Glover is one of those guys that can fill a gap, and
Yeah.
he's streaky. And I think the way this team is shaping up, he could have a really good role. And also when he's struggling with his shot, you just put the cue in the rack and play some of these Foxies, your Sobies, and have a crack. I would not be surprised if we saw Glover start for long periods next year.
I feel like he can just fit in and be that connecting kind of guy. Yeah, he can get hot. He can, create some offense here and there, get into the rack or hitting some pretty deep threes. But I think he can also just play some solid D and move the ball. And he's from all reports, he's low maintenance and Southeast Melbourne, they've got a bit to play out. Probably need a 4-man import, and then maybe a 3 as well. Definitely the 1, which hopefully is Omari Moore. But look, all signs are promising. Oh, they got Fab Krislovic out of Tas. Oh no, they didn't. Melbourne got that.
No, he went
They
to
went
United.
after him. Yeah, yeah. No,
United? Yeah,
yeah,
no,
went to United.
Fab went to United, and I
Yeah,
would have mentioned him, but I don't like him. Um, see, Sydney Kings made probably two of the biggest splashes. So to pair with Xavier Cooks, their premier power forward, they went and got Delhi, and they went and got Kendrick Davis. I have some real concerns about fit with Delhi and
yeah.
Davis, despite if I was a GM, of course I would have Delhi and Davis in my team. But Gorgian has Gorge has a lot to work out when it comes to Delhi and Davis, doesn't he?
Yeah. I listened to a podcast with him yesterday, and look, he's behind this. He thinks it's going to work. I don't, and I definitely don't from a super coach perspective. I think they both were good last year, but they also both had the ball in their hand a lot. You know, like KD had leather poisoning. He was holding that ball for so long, and Delhi was similar. Delhi can't play off the ball. He's not a shooter. He's not an offensive threat. So Delhi's going to have to be the one. KD is going to be like a combo guard. Are we going to get that sort of situation where whoever's got the ball runs and we got no clarity on role? But Gorgon seems to think that's the way international basketball is going and the NBA is going, where you just have ball carriers. You just got guards, and they figure it out. But it was interesting to hear him talk about how it didn't work last year because they didn't have a one. He was saying that Jalen Adams is a 2/1. Tyler Roberts was a 3. Liafa was a 2/ bench player. Uh, they didn't really have a one. He said at least this year we've got at least 2 ones. You can always have a point guard on the court all the time. So from that perspective, I don't hate it. But look, from Supercoach, it's gross.
I
I think they take away from each other.
I just don't know at 6'1" how Davis is going to hold up at the 2 at this NBL level. Like the NBL has taken strides in the right direction, but like to defend a lot of these guys, and I'm looking at. I mean, Sobe plays off the guard, somebody like that. I don't know if he can defend, your Dex or some of these bigger, like
Yeah.
6'4" guards that are in this league. I mean, he's good enough on the offensive end
Mm,
that you can probably cop it. But in a 3-game series against a team like Illawarra, who I think will be there, I think it's going to be really hard for Davis to keep up.
yeah, I think they can hide him defensively. Remembering you got Bull Quoll there, who's got some size. Delhi's about 6'4". So you can manipulate your matchup so he's got your weaker offensive player or your smaller one. But look, you're right. There's going to be some matchups. So Murray Moore out of Southeast Melbourne, if he plays a 6'6" point guard, he's going to have all the vision in the world playing against some of these guys. And uh, look, it's probably a chance you take. You give up a little on the defensive end to get something on the offensive end. But this team has structural issues again. They have no center. Lepepe's more than likely going to be the starting center. I think Gorge might have even said that on the podcast. They are after an import 5, but to me, it's sounding like it's not going to be a starter quality one. It'll be like your Josh Roberts experiment out of Cairns, or maybe it's a cheapie like a Marcus Lee or something. But they gave up a lot of size, and the bigger teams like Illawarra punished them last year.
Yeah, and Lepepe was good when he wasn't injured, and I think honestly you start to see the slippery slope with Sydney when he did get injured, and they
Mm,
asked Cooks to play some of that
yeah,
minutes, and I just don't think he's good enough defensively to do it. I love Qual. I think that he'll be great defensively. I am hoping to see a healthy, Jalen Galloway this year.
yeah.
I've liked what I've seen in the past. Last year was unfortunate for the big fella,
Mm,
but I think he could fill a really good spot on this team as well. I don't know,
yeah.
like Quatnoy's still there.
Mhm.
They've got a lot of returning pieces where a lot of analysts were touting, you know, who was it that said that they'd walk from here to Perth if Sydney if Sydney didn't win, and
Yeah.
have a look at how it panned out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's a wait and see for me how the fit is, but I won't have that belief if by round 6 they're not that good that they will just work it out. Like I think I
Yeah.
still had last year.
Yeah. I really think they need to make a move to fix up this centre position. And look, I don't mind having Lepepe in there as more of a doesn't need the ball in his hands, but the size isn't there. And when he got injured, they had nothing left. And Cook's going to the 5. Look, he was probably stressed out from that so much that he had the off season that he had. But anyway, that's Sydney for you. We'll see how it plays out. But Bogut's now on the coaching staff, so maybe he has a bit of influence in the big man department. Maybe he'll strap on the boots at some point.
Oh, mate, I would love to see footage of him banging up against Kelly Lepepe.
Yeah.
The Seki, I think that's a good nickname. Like, he does just look like a security guard. But I will stop that there. Let's head over the little ditch to Scott Roth's and your Tasmania. Um, Look, there's a lot of departing people,
Mm.
and look, I want to hear a big segment on you from Craig Sword and Ian Hummer, mate.
Two of the most forgettable pieces in Jack Jumper history. They were. It really didn't work out, and look, it's probably a long list of third imports that have been pretty, subpar for the Jack Jumpers. You go back, Rashad Kelly was probably the better of them, but you got McCall McIntosh, and look, they've had some solid import signings. That third one, or at least that sort of 4 spots, never really hit. Um, Look, I think they're in a world of hurt this year. I think the worst thing, and I just can't get my head around why, they have elevated Nick Stoddart from a development player to a roster spot, meaning they can only sign 2 imports. So they've gone and signed David Johnson. He looks okay. I'm not getting overly excited about him. He's out of the G League, did a little bit, had a strong finish to his G League season. But he's like he's 6'4". I'm slotting him in at the 3 spot. Milton Doyle obviously isn't returning. Sean, what's his name? Sean McDonald is the point guard. I really like that. They look great under him. So that's a positive. Josh Bannon was the big signing out of your Brisbane Bullets. I think that's a great move. Locking up a quality local for probably something we missed last year after Jack McVeigh didn't come back. Magnay's solid if he's healthy. I like Majok Deng, but man, they've signed some weird pieces. They've gone after Nick Marshall. They've gone after Ben Air. Anthony Druick's going to sit on the bench there. They really need to nail this last import spot, which is probably going to be a 2-man, you'd think?
I think a
Maybe a
small
3?
forward. I think David Johnson will be able
Oh,
to
that's good.
play that too. And that's what he kind of played a little bit under Petty Hardaway, I think, in there
Mm,
at Memphis. I like him. And oh no, he played for Louisville, sorry. But I like him, and I think that he is one of those guys that will surprise us. But
mm.
I think from the like so many of these teams, and we just talked about Sydney, and we just spoke about, I suppose, Southeast Melbourne and all these other teams. I think that your front court is probably the best with Bannon and Magnay nearly in the league. I'd go
With
out
no
there and
depth.
say that, yeah, with no depth. Oh, well, I think Deng's a serviceable
Yeah,
backup at the 4.
he's a 4.
Yeah, but I think you've got Magnay, you've got Bannon, you've got Dang backing up. I think that this can cause some damage, but you're just banking on what 18 minutes from Ben Air. Like, you're
You'd
banking
hope
on
so.
Sean McDonald. Like, you've obviously saved some money by moving on your Jordan Crawfords and your Milton Doyles and everything, but like was like how much are they paying Bannon? Like, where is this money going?
I don't know. And they offered Milton Doyle the second biggest contract in Jack Jumper's history. There's obviously some more money in the kitty, but I think the way I would have gone, I like Sean McDonald at the point guard. I would have gone David Johnson at the 2. I really think you need to swing hard at a quality 3-man import who could potentially swing to the 4. I'm talking like an Antonius Cleveland type. Gives you sort of that 3 and D, a little bit of offensive above the rim type play. And that's a solid starting 5. And it gives you then that flexibility with your third import spot. You could either go with a backup 5 and get some insurance on Magnay's health, and Bannon hasn't been totally healthy either, or you roll the dice on that and you get a backup combo scoring punch and you bring someone like a Jordan Crawford or an Ian Clark type off the bench in case McDonald gets injured or you need a spark. Like, I think having that third import spot in play really would have made this team like something to get excited about. I think not using that third import spot leaves us just that bit short.
I mean, they did use it on Nick Stoddard.
Yeah, well.
I don't know. I actually really rate Scott Roth as a coach. So I will see what he can get out of these guys. But there is just so much dependent on. I mean, maybe Nick Marshall can make the next step up or something
You'd
like
hope
that.
so.
Like I've liked what I've seen from Nick Marshall as a, albeit role player. So I don't know. You have a chat about David Johnson and you look at Shawnee Mack and Bannon and Magnay. Like if they don't get injured, this could be a very good team. I'm just not sure Tasmania have more than a 2% chance of raising the championship cup this year.
Yeah, I'm not getting that feeling, but I didn't get that feeling the year we won it. So, look, stranger things have happened. But look, we'll see it play out. And we have seen Scott Ross. He has been prepared to change the way they play. Like that first year, they were so slow. They were, getting games down the 60s and 70s. And, when Jordan Crawford came down that first year, they increased the pace. So I wouldn't be surprised if he looks at this team and comes up with something new.
Yeah, Batten's probably a pretty quick full guard, to be honest.
Mm.
Magnay's as slow as a snail, but he is probably one of, if not the best center in the league. I'm looking at maybe Tyrell Harrison as a touch better or Froling on his day, but he's right up there. So Billy Magnay will be good for you if he can stay on the floor because he has had his own injury history.
Even a Harry Froling who's trying to make his way back into the league would have been a solid backup to sign at centre and give you a few minutes here and there. But that's the Jack Jumpers for you. I think that's every team now. That's a bit of a wrap. We've still got a few months even of pre-season to play out. There's going to be some more stuff to come into these depth charts. But the time we plug the Bible.
Yeah, look, you've done some great work with this thing, and it will be on our Patreon. We do intend on doing a lot more NBL specific episodes this year, as well to go with the NBL Supercoach. But in the off season, you need Jesus. You need the Bible. Tell us about it, mate.
Mate, we are sitting currently at about 90 pages of full analysis. Every player that matters, stats, projections, things like that. We've got some articles in there. We've got depth charts. We've got the schedule. This is everything you need to plan your squad for NBL Supercoach 26. Without it, you'd be absolutely lost. And it's evolving. So, look, we're pretty close, but obviously not all the signings are in yet. It's going to be available for purchase on our Patreon. We'll link it once it's available. We're expecting it once the schedule drops. We'll be releasing it just after that. So get excited. The cover is somewhere on this video, and
It's on the front page. So
it's on the front page. But look, jump into the Patreon, jump into the Discord, all that kind of stuff, and get amongst it. If you want anything included, you want certain players, we're happy to work with you.
So this year we'll go on the WhatsApp. We'll have all our chats. So sign up to our Patreon. It'll be $9.95 a month, and whether it's heading into the season, you can get access to the Bible through that. And as soon as you sign up, you will get access to our WhatsApp. Every week we'll do our captains. We'll do our trade-ins. We'll keep everybody updated with our teams through the Patreon. We'll do some pods every week. And I'm excited if we can make it work to do a subscriber Q&A so that we answer everybody's questions who supports us. And they get their questions priority answered. So, look, I'm excited for the year ahead with your Hammer. We might be adding some additional people to the group just to see what we can do with NBL as well as NBL Supercoach, because we are. I know I myself would not call myself an NBL analyst. I'd call myself an NBL Supercoach analyst at this stage. But yeah, I've got some guys that I think would be able to come on board and take us to that next level so that we can, scratch a lot of itches when it comes to Australian basketball.
Oh, scratch me.
All right. Let's wrap it up, mate. You've listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.